There are moments in life when your heart feels too heavy to carry, when your prayers feel like whispers lost in the wind, and silence answers back louder than any words ever could. You wonder, God, are you even listening? Your soul is tired. You've done all the right things. You've waited. You've prayed. And yet, nothing moves. But what if I told you that in the very silence that aches the most, God is doing his deepest work? C.S. Lewis once wrote that we are not made to run on our own strength. Just like a car cannot run without fuel, the human soul cannot thrive without its source. And that source is God himself. But what happens when we're doing everything right and still feel empty, unseen, unheard? This video is not just about waiting on God. It's about what happens in the waiting, in that sacred space where your prayers seem unanswered and your hope hangs by a thread. Today we'll walk through that quiet valley together, drawing from Lewis's profound insights on suffering, faith, and divine timing. Because sometimes, the silence of God is not his absence, but his invitation, an invitation to trust, to rest, to finally let go of control and leave it in God's hands. So if you've ever cried alone in the dark, if you've ever begged heaven for a sign, if your faith feels bruised and your spirit weary, stay with me, because this message was meant for you. Before we begin, if these words are already reaching a tender place in your heart, tap the like button. Subscribe to Decode for more soul-nourishing content like this. And in the comments, type, God is with me even in silence. Let's fill this space with faith, together, ready to take the first step into healing. When God is silent, he is closest. C.S. Lewis once wrote, God whispers to us in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pains. It is his megaphone to rouse a deaf world. Pain, for many, feels like proof that God is far. But Lewis challenges that assumption. He believed that the very ache in our heart may actually be the echo of God moving through us, not away from us. Think about that. When you're broken, crying in silence, lying awake at 3 a.m. feeling forgotten, that's not when God has abandoned you. That's when he's rebuilding something inside you. You just can't see it yet. Pain strips away illusions. It tears down the false gods we quietly worship. Control, certainty, timing. And in that raw space, there's only you and God. That's where transformation begins. In Mere Christianity, Lewis explains that we were designed not just to be happy, but to be holy. And holiness is often birthed in the waiting, not the winning. Because God is not in a hurry. But we are. We live in a world where fast equals good. We want instant answers, immediate signs, quick relief. But God, he works. In the soil, not the spotlight. He grows oaks, not weeds. And oaks take time, let's be honest. Sometimes you pray until your voice cracks, wait until your hope feels thin. And still heaven is quiet. You ask, why am I going through this? When will it end? Why does everyone else seem to get answers but not me? It feels like being locked in a room with no windows. The air gets heavy. The doubt creeps in. You start to wonder if your faith was a mistake. But listen carefully. That's not the end of your story. It's the middle. C.S. Lewis didn't sugarcoat suffering. He faced grief so deep it shook his belief. After the death of his wife, Joy, he wrote A Grief Observed, not as a preacher but as a wounded man, a man who wrestled with God in the dark. He wrote, when you are happy, so happy that you have no sense of needing him, so happy that you are tempted to feel his claims upon you as an interruption. If you remember yourself and turn to him with gratitude and praise, you will be, or so it feels, welcomed with open arms. But go to him when your need is desperate, when all other help is vain. And what do you find? A door slammed in your face. But that wasn't where he stopped. Eventually, Lewis came to see that the door wasn't slammed. It was simply closed, so the work inside could begin. God was not ignoring him. God was rebuilding him. Think of it like this. A sculptor does not scream while chiseling. He works in silence, steadily, patiently, with focus. So does God. When life grows quiet, it's not because nothing is happening. It's because the deepest shaping is too delicate for noise. You are the clay. God is the potter. And silence is his most intimate tool. We often say, I can't hear God. But maybe the better question is, can you feel him? That sudden peace, in the middle of despair, that whisper of strength when you thought you couldn't go on, that's him. Not in the thunder, not in the fire, but in the still small voice, just as he spoke to Elijah. Lewis believed that the journey of faith is not paved with certainty, but with trust. He said, relying on God has to begin all over again every day, as if nothing had yet been done. That's how you build true faith, not in moments of clarity, but in days of confusion. God's silence does not mean you are forgotten. It means you are being forged. So if you feel like giving up, hold on just a little longer, because you're not falling apart. You're being held, quietly, completely, faithfully. If this part touched you, pause and breathe. Let the message settle, then tell us in the comments. Even in silence, I trust God. And if you haven't yet, like this video and subscribe. You never know who needs to hear this next chapter with you. God's delays are not denials. In a world ruled by clocks and calendars, waiting feels like a punishment. We measure progress by how quickly we get results. But God, he measures by something far deeper, trust. C.S. Lewis reminds us, I am sure that God keeps no one waiting unless he sees that it is good for him to wait. Let that sink in. If you're waiting, it's not because God forgot you. It's because the wait is doing something for you, something nothing else can. There's a kind of ache that comes with uncertainty. You try to hold on to faith, but your hands get tired. You wonder, God, if you love me, why haven't you answered yet? You pray for the relationship to be restored, for the pain to stop, for the door to open, and yet, nothing. But remember the story of Lazarus in the Gospel of John. Mary and Martha called for Jesus, saying their brother was dying. They believed in him. They trusted him. But Jesus waited. He didn't rush to help. He let Lazarus die. To anyone watching, it looked cruel, unjust, delayed. But what seemed like a denial was actually a setup for resurrection. Jesus didn't come to prevent the pain. He came to overcome it. Because sometimes God's plan is not to protect you from the fire, but to walk with you through it, and then raise something greater from the ashes. James 5 says, see how the farmer waits for the precious fruit of the earth, patiently waiting for the autumn and spring rains. Imagine a farmer digging into the soil, planting seed after seed, and then waiting. No matter how much he waters, no matter how much he hopes, he cannot force the harvest to come early. And yet, he waits. Not because he's passive, but because he trusts the process. That's faith. That's what God asks of you in the waiting. To trust that something is growing beneath the surface, even if you can't see it yet. C.S. Lewis said something powerful in the Screwtape Letters. The future is the least like eternity. It is the most temporal part of time. We are obsessed with what comes next. God is focused on who we're becoming. You may be ready for the thing, but are you ready to carry it? Sometimes God delays the blessing not because he's punishing you, but because he's preparing you. The delay is not rejection, it's refinement. He's building character, endurance, wisdom, so that when the blessing comes, you're strong enough to hold it. C.S. Lewis painted a picture in Mere Christianity. Imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. At first, you understand what he is doing. But then he starts knocking the house about in a way that hurts. The explanation is that he is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. You thought you were going to be made into a decent little cottage, but he is building a palace. This is what the delay often is. God taking your blueprint and replacing it with his. You ask for healing. He gives transformation. You ask for answers. He gives wisdom. You ask for a quick fix. He gives lifelong strength. So maybe the blessing hasn't come because God is still building you into the person who can receive it without it breaking you. The question isn't, how long will I wait? It's, who will I become while I wait? Will you turn bitter or become better? Will you panic or will you pray? Because every minute you choose faith over frustration, you're stepping closer to the version of yourself that God already sees. The person who walks through fire and doesn't burn, who loses everything and still believes, who doesn't just want the promise, but the promiser. Romans 8:28 declares, "We know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose." All things includes delays. It includes silence. It includes the nights you cry yourself to sleep. God is not working around your pain. He's working through it. So if you're waiting, don't give up. Don't rush ahead. Don't try to take shortcuts. They'll only lead you back to the beginning, more tired than before. Stay where God has placed you. Because even if nothing around you is moving, something inside you is growing roots. And those roots, they'll carry you when the storm comes again. Are you still with me? If this chapter spoke to your heart, write in the comments, God's delay is not His denial. That one sentence might be the lifeline someone else needs today. Tap the like button and make sure you're subscribed, because the next section will take us even deeper. 3. Patience is not weakness, it's spiritual strength. In the noise of this world, patience is often misunderstood. People may say, "You're too passive, you're wasting time. Do something." But the truth is, patience isn't weakness. It's strength dressed in silence. It's not the act of doing nothing. It's the powerful decision to trust that God is doing something, even when you can't see it. C.S. Lewis wrote in Mere Christianity, "The great thing, if one can, is to stop regarding all the unpleasant things as interruptions of one's real life." The truth is, of course, that what one calls the interruptions are precisely one's real life. That means what you're going through right now, the waiting, the frustration, the silence. It's not a distraction from your life's purpose. It is the shaping of it. Look at the ocean. At the surface, it looks still, maybe even stagnant. But deep underneath, powerful currents move unseen. That's your soul during a season of waiting. You may not feel change, but trust me, it's happening. God uses patience to strip away fear, pride, and self-reliance, to create space for faith, humility, and surrender. In that space, you begin to shift from simply wanting things to happen to believing they will. In God's time, you move from restlessness to rest. Imagine Noah. God told him to build an ark when there wasn't a single cloud in the sky. Every nail he hammered was an act of trust. People mocked him. Time dragged on. But he waited. And worked. And waited more. When the rain finally came, he was ready. Now imagine if Noah had given up at year 30 or year 50. What if you're just a few planks away from your own breakthrough? Don't stop building. Don't stop praying. Don't stop trusting. You don't have to look loud to be strong. The strongest people aren't always the ones who speak the most or act the fastest. They're often the ones who kneel silently in prayer and whisper, "God, I still trust you." That kind of patience is not a lack of action. It's the most courageous kind of action, because it means you've chosen to wait when you could have run, to trust when you could have forced it, to surrender when you wanted to control. Patience says, "God, I choose your plan, even when mine makes more sense to me." C.S. Lewis often spoke about the inner battles we rarely talk about. The pride, the entitlement, the illusion of control. Waiting exposes those shadows. It reveals where we secretly believe, if I do good things, God owes me good results. But God is not a vending machine. He's a loving Father. He's not here to grant every wish. He's here to grow your soul, and sometimes the only way to purify your intentions is through a fire that lasts longer than you expected. But when that fire passes, and it will, you will no longer just be someone who believes in God. You'll Be someone who knows him. Romans 5:3-4 reminds us, we also glory in our sufferings, because we know that suffering produces perseverance. Perseverance, character, and character, hope. This isn't about enduring pain for the sake of pain. It's about understanding that God allows the delay, so he can do in you what the answer itself never could. Yes, the blessing is coming. Yes, the promise still stands. But right now, God is working on the vessel that will carry it. That vessel is you, so don't despise the waiting. Don't curse the silence. Thank God for it, because it means you are being prepared for something sacred. Lewis wrote in The Weight of Glory, I believe to be sure that any man who reaches heaven will find that what he abandoned, even if legitimate, has not been lost. Nothing is lost. The smallest good act today is the capture of a strategic point from which a few months later, you may be able to go on to victories you never dreamed of. Your patience today may be building a victory tomorrow. The smallest choice to wait, to trust, to endure. That's a strategic point in your spiritual life. You're not falling behind. You're being positioned. When God says wait, he never means wither. He means watch, worship, withstand. Because something glorious is coming, and when it does, you'll understand why it had to take time. Let's anchor this moment together. If you're learning to trust God's process, comment below. I am being shaped in the waiting. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. There's someone else out there drowning in silence. You could be the reason they hold on one more day. The gift, hidden inside suffering. There's a question that echoes through every hurting heart. Why does a good God allow so much pain? C.S. Lewis wrestled deeply with this question. In A Grief Observed, he wrote after the loss of his beloved wife, pain insists upon being attended to. God whispers in our pleasures, speaks in our conscience, but shouts in our pain. Why would God shout? Because sometimes pain is the only thing that gets through the noise of our lives. We don't learn surrender when everything is perfect. We don't discover resilience when all is easy. We don't meet the depths of God until we are broken open. That is the brutal mercy of suffering. Not that God causes it, but that he never wastes it. Imagine walking through a long, dark tunnel. Everything feels cold, uncertain, endless. You can't see the way forward and you're tempted to sit down and stop. But then, a light appears, not from outside, but from within. That's what suffering does. It doesn't just reveal God's presence, it reveals your own inner light, the strength you didn't know you had. C.S. Lewis described it like this: hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Suffering breaks the shell around your heart, so truth can reach you, so love can fill you, so purpose can find you. Have you ever watched a seed crack open underground? From the outside, it looks like destruction, but inside, it's growth, it's life, it's purpose. What looks like breaking is actually becoming. Maybe your suffering is not destroying you. Maybe it's cracking you open so God can plant something deeper inside you. A new dream, a new faith, a new identity. You're not losing yourself. You're becoming more of who you were always meant to be, let's be honest. We don't usually run to God when things are going great. But when life falls apart, we fall to our knees. And strangely, that's where the most sacred things begin. Lewis wrote, God allows us to experience the low points of life in order to teach us lessons that we could learn in no other way. The valleys teach us what the mountaintops never could. You learn to pray, not with perfect words, but with a trembling heart. You learn to listen, not just for answers, but for presence. You learn to trust, not because of what you see, but because of who God is. Suffering uncovers your beliefs. It asks, do you trust God only when he answers you? Do you love him only when life is smooth? Pain is a mirror. It shows you where your faith is rooted. It tests whether your foundation is built on emotion or on trust. C.S. Lewis wasn't afraid to admit his struggles. He felt anger, doubt, deep sadness. But through it all, he clung to one truth, that even when everything was stripped away, God remained, not always the God he wanted, but the God he needed. Romans 8:18 says, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. There is something coming that will make sense of the pain, not just in heaven, but even here. The blessing you're waiting for may not just be the job, or the healing, or the person. It may be the version of you that comes out on the other side, stronger, wiser, softer, braver. A version of you that knows how to love deeper, forgive faster, trust longer, and that is a gift. Lewis saw life as a story, and God as the author. But here's the thing. We don't read the last chapter in the middle of the book. You may not understand this chapter now. It might feel dark, painful, even meaningless. But the story isn't over. Lewis said in the last battle, the final book of the Chronicles of Narnia, now at last they were beginning chapter 1 of the great story, which no one on earth has read, which goes on forever, in which every chapter is better than the one before. God is not done with your story, and this chapter of suffering might be the very place where your deepest healing begins. In ancient times, silversmiths would heat silver until the impurities rose to the top. They'd skim away the dross, again and again, until they could see their own reflection in the metal. God does the same with us. He allows the heat, not to burn us, but to purify us, not to destroy, but to refine, not to hurt, but to reveal himself in us. He's not punishing you. He's purifying you until he sees his reflection in your life. If this part moved something deep inside you, type in the comments. There is a purpose in my pain. Let your voice be the echo of someone else's healing, and remember to like this video and subscribe, so you never miss a message meant just for your heart. 5. Tranquility comes when you surrender. There is a strange kind of peace that comes, not when everything is fixed, but when you finally stop trying to fix it yourself. When you let go of your grip and whisper from the core of your soul, God, I trust you now, even here. C.S. Lewis described this beautifully in the Screwtape Letters when he wrote, Men are not angered by mere misfortune, but by misfortunes conceived as injuries. The more claims on life that your patient can be induced to make, the more often he will feel injured. In other words, it's not just suffering that hurts us. It's our belief that we shouldn't be suffering, that things should be different, that God should have moved by now, that we deserve something else. But what happens when you release the word should from your vocabulary? When you no longer fight reality but flow with grace? When you stop demanding answers and start embracing the moment? That's when tranquility arrives. Psalm 46:10 says it simply and powerfully, Be still and know that I am God. Not do more, not figure it out, not worry harder. Be still. Stillness is not passive. It's an act of sacred trust. It's the quiet surrender of your anxious thoughts, the releasing of your clenched heart, and the resting of your soul in the arms of a God who sees the whole picture. Philippians 4:6-7 gives us this promise. Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your requests to God, and the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. It doesn't say you'll get what you asked for immediately. It says something better. You'll get peace. Peace isn't the absence of struggle. It's the presence of trust. It's what holds you when answers don't come, what steadies you when life spins, what reassures you when fear knocks again, and it only comes when you surrender. Surrender doesn't mean giving up. It means giving over, giving your timing to His, giving your outcomes to His will, giving your heart back into the hands that formed. C.S. Lewis painted this image in Mere Christianity. Imagine yourself as a living house. God is building quite a different house from the one you thought of. You thought you were going to be made into a decent little cottage, but He is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it Himself. You may not understand the renovations. You may not like the demolition, but you can trust the architect. Lewis once said, "We must lay before him what is in us, not what ought to be in us." God does not ask for your polished self. He asks for your real self. Bring him your doubt, your anger, your fear. Bring him the tears you hide from others. Bring him the words you're afraid to speak aloud, because God cannot heal the mask. He can only heal the honest heart. And once you open that heart fully, tranquility flows in like a quiet stream. Not loud, not dramatic, but deeply healing. Picture a flower, opening one petal at a time to the morning sun. It doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, it simply responds to light. That's what surrender is. You don't force it, you don't perform it, you allow it. You let God shine light into your shadows. You let your heart bloom slowly in His timing, and with every petal that opens, peace expands. Let this be a gentle reminder. You were never meant to carry this weight by yourself. That regret, that fear, that pressure to fix everything. Lay it down. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Rest, not just sleep, not just escape, but soul-deep rest. The kind that doesn't require circumstances to change, only a heart willing to trust. Tranquility is not found in getting what you want. It's found in aligning your heart with what God knows you need. It's found in whispering, "Even if not, you are still good." In breathing out control and breathing in trust. You may not know what's next. You may not see the full picture, but you don't have to, and because God does, and if He holds the stars in their place, surely He can hold you in this moment too. So surrender, not out of defeat, but out of sacred trust, because the deepest peace begins where your control ends. If your heart is leaning into this stillness, write in the comments, "I surrender to God's plan." Let others know they're not alone in letting go. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe. The next part may be the very thing you didn't know your soul needed. 6. God's supreme dominion. The plan you cannot see. There's a kind of mystery in how God works, and C.S. Lewis believed that mystery wasn't meant to frustrate us, but to humble us, to remind us that we are not the author, only the beloved characters. In The Problem of Pain, Lewis said, "The human spirit will not even begin to try to surrender self-will as long as all seems to be well with it." Now, error and sin both have this property, that the deeper they are, the less their victim suspects their existence. They are masked evil. Pain is unmasked, unmistakable evil. Pain may unmask us, but God uses it to lead us back to what's real. His dominion is not a rigid rule from above. It's a sacred orchestration from within. Proverbs 19:21 tells us, "Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails." This verse doesn't shame us for dreaming or planning. It simply reminds us that even our best ideas are small compared to God's design. Sometimes the door didn't open because it was never meant to. Sometimes the person left because they were never part of your calling. Sometimes the delay wasn't punishment, but divine redirection. It's hard to accept when you're in it. But look back at your life. How many no's led to something better? God's dominion means He sees what you can't and still chooses what is best. Let's revisit Joseph, the young dreamer sold by his own brothers, from the pit to slavery to prison. Everything in his life looked like failure, but God's dominion was at work. Behind the betrayal, behind the silence, behind every locked door, God was building the man who would one day save nations. Genesis 50:20 captures this truth. "You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives." What looks like harm in human hands becomes purpose in God's. That's His dominion. C.S. Lewis gave us a stunning metaphor in Mere Christianity. You thought you were being made into a decent little cottage, but He is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it Himself. So, when your life feels like it's being torn down, maybe it's not destruction, Maybe it's design. You wanted comfort. God is creating capacity. You asked for peace. God is building purpose, because He doesn't just want to give you a better life. He wants to make you more like Him, and that kind of work takes time. It takes pain. And above all, it takes trust. When life feels chaotic, it's easy to believe that God is absent. But His silence doesn't mean He's gone. It means the script is unfolding according to a higher order. Isaiah 55:8-9 reminds us, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." You are part of a story so much bigger than yourself, and right now you may only see one sentence, but God sees the whole page, the whole book. The ending that brings everything into beauty. He's not just aware of your pain, He's weaving it into your purpose. One of the most difficult things for the human soul is not knowing. We want control. We want guarantees. We want proof before we commit. But faith, the kind C.S. Lewis admired, is believing when there is no map, trusting when you are still in the fog. Your need for control is not weakness, it's fear in disguise. But God's dominion invites you to release that fear, to let go of the illusion that you're in charge, and to let the Creator create something in you that you never imagined possible. Psalm 103:19 says, "The Lord has established His throne in heaven, and His kingdom rules over all." That includes your job loss, your heartbreak, your sickness, your unanswered prayer. He rules over all, not just the good but the hard, not just the healing but the hurting, not just the mountain but the valley. And His rule is not cold and distant. It is loving, kind, intimate. He's not just watching your life. He's holding it, shaping it, guiding it. Even now, you may not see the blessing today. You may not understand the delay, but can you trust the one who does? C.S. Lewis trusted, even when it hurt, even when his own heart broke, because he believed that in God's dominion, nothing is wasted, and neither is your pain. So rest, not in your plans, but in the arms of the one who has dominion over all. He knows where this is going, and it's good. It's better than good. It's glorious. If your heart is learning to trust God's plan, even when it doesn't make sense, type in the comments, "I trust God's plan even in the dark." It might be the prayer someone else is too tired to say. Like this video, subscribe, and get ready. We're almost there. Hold on. Your cry has reached heaven. Sometimes we wonder if our prayers are too small, or too broken, or maybe just too late. We whisper into our pillow at night, "God, do you hear me?" And when the silence stretches longer than our hope, we fear the worst. But let this be the truth you carry from today onward. Your cry has not been ignored. It has traveled beyond the ceiling, past the stars, and reached the heart of heaven. Every tear you've cried has been counted. Every ache in your chest has been seen. Every sleepless night has echoed in eternity, because the God who made you never stopped listening. Even when our hearts condemn us, God is greater than our hearts, and He knows everything. You may have given up on your own strength. You may feel like your prayers have failed. You may even feel like you've failed, but God hasn't, and He never will. Even when your faith falters, even when you feel too weary to speak, even when the only prayer you can offer is a sigh, God is still listening. C.S. Lewis once said, "There are far, far better things ahead than any we leave behind. You may not see the morning light yet, but it's coming. The night doesn't last forever, and neither will this valley." God is not slow in responding. He is perfect in timing. He is not absent from your pain. He is present in the waiting. You are not forgotten. You are being carried. In the book of Exodus, God heard the cries of His people in slavery, in their suffering, in their helplessness, in their silence. And the Bible says in Exodus 3:7, "I have indeed seen the misery of my people. I have heard them crying out, and I am concerned about their suffering. God does not just hear, He feels with you. Jesus wept. Jesus sweat blood. Jesus knows what sorrow tastes like. So when you cry out, you're not calling into an empty sky. You're reaching into the very heart of a God who understands sorrow better than anyone. Maybe you've been trying to be the strong one, the one who prays with confidence, the one who keeps smiling, the one who pretends it's all fine. But hear this, you don't need to be strong for God to love you. You just need to be real. Lewis said it best. May it be the real I who speaks. May it be the real thou that I speak to. Let that be your prayer. Drop the mask. Speak the truth. Cry if you need to. Because your honesty is the doorway to divine comfort. What if you're not waiting to be blessed, but already walking through the preparation for it? What if the breakthrough isn't coming, it's becoming through you? Every delay is developing your character. Every silence is strengthening your surrender. Every cry is softening your spirit to receive more than you asked for. C.S. Lewis believed this deeply. He believed that suffering wasn't a detour from the path. It was the path. And at the end of that path, there is something unshakable waiting for you. Peace, purpose, and the presence of God. Let these words be a whisper from heaven into your weary soul. My child, I see your pain. I hear your cry. I have not forgotten you. I have been with you through every storm, holding your heart even when it broke in silence. Trust me, I am doing something new. Hold on, because what's coming will heal everything that hurt. The Lord is good to those whose hope is in Him, to the one who seeks Him. It is good to wait quietly for the salvation of the Lord. This waiting is not wasted. This silence is not empty. This pain is not meaningless. God is with you. God is for you. God is already moving on your behalf, even if you don't feel it yet. So hold on, beloved soul. You're not alone. If this message touched your heart, let your soul speak in the comments. God hears me. I will hold on. Click the like button to remind yourself that faith still lives in you. Subscribe to Decode for more messages crafted for your healing. And before you go, take a deep breath. Feel your shoulders drop. Close your eyes, if you need to. You are safe. You are seen. You are so deeply loved. This is not the end of your story. It's the beginning of your breakthrough. Amen.